Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Happy holiday season and welcome to USA Global TV. And hello to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio out of New York. I am Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is The Wise Ones, where we meet with my co-host, who's truly amazing, has the most incredible attitude. And by the way, he gets an A+ on social media. Let's welcome to the program the fabulous author, speaker, singer, attitude guru, Fred Kiehl. Hi, Fred.
Hi, Jacalyn. How you? I love your Christmas background. It is fantastic. It's the reason for the season. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you. You actually gave me the inspiration with your beautiful holiday shirt and tie. So we're in alignment.
I'm in the season here, by golly.
I'm all Fred, wrapped up. You look great, and you've brought a wonderful guest. But before we bring him out, I want to just talk a little bit about being in alignment, because we're in alignment today, I think, with our energy and with our backgrounds and our attitude. What does it mean to you when you're in alignment with your intuition?
You know, I do a lot about music. I do a lot with, I played in a band for a long time, and music, sports, communication. When a team or a band is in alignment and everything is right, it's everything just goes smoothly. Your energy is fed by the people around you, your teammates, the band members, speakers like you, and the person we're going to bring on. When you're in alignment like that, and in doing this season, it's a perfect time to bring everybody across the globe together. And when that starts getting in alignment, wonderful things start happening. People start sharing ideas. People start being more harmonious. And then your attitude goes way up. And when your attitude is up, everything else starts working in sync. It's like a flock of birds. When you see them, they all turn together, and like fish, schools of fish, they turn. That's the way we are today. And that's when when your attitude is right, that helps to keep that flow going.
Fred, I love the way that you gave that analogy about the birds, about a band. It's so cool. I'm always amazed with birds that all of a sudden they're going this way, then they go that way, they go this way. And I think, how do they know that? They just have that connection. It's like a team that's just smoothly working together, anticipating which each other needs. It's really just amazing.
Yeah, they got a built-in turn signal. I don't know what it's called.
And also with the work that you're doing as an author, I know you're continuing to put more content out there. You really have to be in alignment with your purpose. And you do that so much in your writing. I'd love for you to share a little bit about that as well.
Oh, yeah, this latest book, I finished it off, and I'm sending out for endorsements, and I'm looking for someone to write a real good forward to me. I got a couple of requests out. But when I go in to write a book, like this one is called Leadership with an Attitude. I go on what my experience has been throughout. Start out as me and my best friend, we mowed lawns, and that was a business. Okay. And then I was a paper boy, and then I was a bus boy, and then I was this, and I was that. Then I was an electrician. I was in construction. And all through that, all of these experiences that I've had, I try to tie them all in and see where my attitude or other people's attitude played an important role in it. And that's what I start putting into my books. When it was about health with an attitude, it's all about all through my life about what other people did about their health, my grandparents and everybody I watched. I always work on people's attitude, because if your attitude is in tune, like we were talking about, if your attitude is in good shape, the rest of things start following suit. So this Leadership with an Attitude is just, I hope to publish it and launch it in February. And it's all about the employees and how important their attitude is towards the position of their job. That You don't have to be the boss to be a leader. You can be the best janitor in a company, and you play a vital role in that company. Believe it or not, you are necessary. Without you, that business will fail. And all the way up through the CEO, every person out there is important. And that's what I focus on, is their attitude about their position and how valuable they are.
Fred, you're doing exceptional work, and I'm just so thrilled that you're here today on this stage with me. Tell us a little bit about our guest who's joining us from Paris, by the way. I love the city of Paris, and I love the French. Tell us about Robertson.
Well, I watched Robertson Hunter Stevenson. I've watched him and seen a lot of the stuff he does about doing as a business coach. And he talks about how important a person's, a leadership role is in engaging with every one of his employees, his or her employees. Those people out there, like I was just saying my stuff, everyone is vital. And if you don't have a one-to-one relationship with them as a leader, you're missing the boat. And that's what Robert brings to the stage here. That's what he brings to this lesson today. And he wrote a fantastic book called 1-to-1. And I'm sure we're going to ask him a lot of questions, and you're going to bring us up to date on that, because it gives a reader a step-by-step guide to how to obtain and maintain this great relationship with your employees. So with no further ado, I'd love to bring on Robertson Hunter Stevenson.
Hi there. How nice to see you.
Very nice to see you. It's Robertson Hunter Stewart.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There's no problem.
Yeah, I got Stevenson in there on the brain here.
I was like, oh, we've got a different guest today.
No.
You got a twin out there?
No, there's no twins. Thank you very much for inviting me on the show, Jacalyn, and great to finally meet you, Fred, in the flesh, so to speak. We've had a lot of writing to each other and so forth, but it's really great to finally see you.
Yes.
And thank you very much for this invitation. Very excited to be here today.
It's definitely our pleasure to have you. And I just want to acknowledge you also publicly for doing such a fantastic job on social media.
Yes.
I think we're going to get into your book and talk about leadership. I think also what people need to know, just whether you're a business owner or an individual and you have something to bring to the world, it's really important to learn how to market and how to promote. Because if you're not out there promoting yourself, believe me, friends, no one's doing it for you. So you both do a great job on social media. You get a 10+ from me. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's very important. Yeah. I mean, it's as you say, Jacalyn, there's no one, if you don't blow your own horn, no one's going to do it for you. Huh?
Correct.
That's absolutely sure. And, today I think it's very important for all people that are in business to understand really how social media works, and to really take time to look at how these algorithms work and how to put the information out there, how to put out content which is not only interesting, but which is important for people, so that you gain people's interest, and that you put out content that's different all the time. You don't always put the same content out all the time. People get bored very easily. Yeah. So it's very important for business people. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Robertson. And I'm wondering, I'm going to spotlight you. If you could just talk a little bit more about social media and the importance for business leaders, business owners, managers. How does someone take that first step so they're not intimidated about social media? Because many people are. They're like, oh, I don't get it. It's too much. What did you do? What was your first step?
Well, my first step was to really understand how it worked, because sometimes I put out some content. It's basically about experimenting. So you have to experiment. Don't be scared to experiment. You put out different types of content. You can put out written content or video content. I've done some of that too. But really, it's about experimenting, and you'll finally find what's best for you. Some people prefer to go through video and put a lot of video. Others prefer to write. Others prefer, and different channels, of course. You have LinkedIn, which is more professional, which is one I use the most, because most of my books are centered towards business and leadership and management. So, of course, the main channel for me is LinkedIn. Much less so on Facebook, although I do some stuff on Facebook. But it's really choosing as well. Instagram is also important, because you get a lot of business take on there. And the other thing is to look at people who you want to emulate. I think that's very important. So, for example, in my case, I want to put information about business, about management, especially about leadership, and the importance of being a good leader. So what did I do? Well, I looked at what people like Simon Sinek or Adam Grant, all these other great guys, what they're doing already, or Gary Vee, for example, and not copy what they do, but get hints about how they're putting their stuff out. I think that's one of the very, very important things to do. To align yourself, you talked about alignment earlier, but to align yourself with what you're trying to achieve, and then try and get some examples of how it's done by people that are in the same kind of business that you're in. That was one of the most important places that I started with this.
I think that's brilliant direction. Thank you. And I know, Fred, you have some questions also. Just a follow-up question to that, Robertson.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you're a leader and people look up to you. When someone reaches out to you, someone you don't even know, for example, maybe they reach out on LinkedIn. How do you feel about that? Are you excited, or you feel, oh, another person I have to get to? I've got all these things. How do you feel about it? And then how do you deal with it or address
I'm always very excited about it, but it's all about most of the time it's all about boundaries. For example, making healthy boundaries. So for example, if someone's constantly coming back, you're asking, can I have something for free and so forth? You say, well, actually, no, I don't do any consulting for free. I do pro bono, but it's on a personal one-to-one basis, and it's only face-to-face. I don't do pro bono, for example, over video, for example. I won't do that. But it's setting clear boundaries for people. And at the same time, I'm always very excited because you never know what something is going to lead to. I'll give you an example. I had a call one day, not a call, someone wrote to me on the messenger service of LinkedIn and said, we'd like you to come and speak to us. And it was an accounting organization in Great Britain. And they said, we want you to be a panel member and come and speak to us about management. And at first I didn't understand the request. I thought, this is a bit strange, But once I looked at the request and once they'd explained it to me, it turned out to be a great opportunity, both for them and for me. And this happens quite a lot. I've been invited, for example, next year to go and speak in Milan, in Italy, for example. I'm constantly getting invited to go on shows and so forth. So no, I get quite excited when I'm getting personal messages from people, as long as I said, you set proper boundaries, and you tell people, okay, I can give you maybe a tiny little bit of advice, but I can't spend that much time doing so. You have to protect yourself too.
I think that's really wise. And I'm going to turn it to the business environment. Fred, I'd love to have you jump in as well. So when you talk about setting boundaries, I'm just going to think about when I was in corporate, a specific company I worked for, and there's executives and they were in the ivory tower, so to speak, and you could never go there. Don't even go down that hallway because they're not going to talk to you. You've got to get through this person and this person. What about those boundaries today, in today's environment, when you look at business leadership, management, and you look at the culture of the organization? Are there still, or should there be, those boundaries where certain people only communicate through other people? So if you're an entry-level worker, you have to go through this, and this before you get to the president?
Is that a question to me directly?
Yeah, I'm going to start. Yes. I'm going to start with you. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, the answer is no. You should be able to, at one point, be able to speak to the president, but it's not what's most important. What's most important is that your direct boss, that you can speak to your direct boss, and make sure that the messages that you're giving your direct boss actually reach the president. That's more important. And when I talk in my book, One-to-One, about the importance of individual communication, what we're talking about here is being able to express yourself in a formal environment, let's say 1 hour, one time per month, with your direct boss, so that you can speak about what's going on in your world on the shop floor, for example, and that information and that type of process cascades out through the whole organization from top to bottom. So, for example, the chief operating officer, he's going to do that with his executive team. All of the executive team are going to do the same process once per month with their teams, their middle management teams, and the middle management teams will do that with their employees. So what you're really ensuring is that the information cascades and travels up and down through the organization with no friction.
I think that's so
Right.
important because basically what you're saying, what I hear you saying is that your message, you as the employee, you want your message to be conveyed to whomever, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen if you follow the chain of command, so to speak. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is
Sometimes.
it can happen as well, because, for example, when I was in charge of 800, 1,000 people, when I was working in big hotels, I was working in 1,000-room hotels, and I'd take, for example, the housemaids, and I'd invite them for breakfast directly, you know, and and I'd have the housemaids. I'd have maybe 20 housemaids around the table. I'd serve them breakfast, serve them coffee, and then I'd sit there and I'd say, "Okay, hi girls, how are you doing today?" And and then ask them, how are you? Have you all the equipment that you need to do your work properly? How are you? How are your families? Do you need any help from me? Is there anything I can do for you? So although there is the formal process of the one-to-one, which was already in place in that organization, it didn't stop me from going directly to see people and directly to visit them. So wherever they were from, whether it was the chamber, it's a bit more like what Fred was saying earlier. Everyone's important. So whether it's the chambermaid, whether it's the guy serving behind the reception, whether it's the guy in the bar, whether it's the guy outside on the building site, building something for you, it doesn't matter who it is. They're all important, and they should all have the opportunity to be listened to.
I love this. Thank you.
That is so spot on, Robert. Yeah, you mentioned everything that's golden to today's leaders, and you're right. That if you have questions or you want to get some answers, direct it to the proper channel according to your question. But there's a lot of times when it gets misplaced and it doesn't get upstream.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to be a Six Sigma expert in a huge corporation here in Dallas. And I have to meet the CEO in one of the big meetings like you had. And his belief in their mission system, their mission statement was perfect, spot on. He really believed in that. But somewhere down the chain, it gets lost in some of the mid-management areas, and some of your issues that you have or want him to know, or the upper level, doesn't get past that sometimes. So you have to work that accordingly. And you're right. I talk about in my book about the janitor is important. The landscaper is important. The secretary that you meet is important. Everybody in that chain is vital to the success of any company and every company and organization out there. And if you don't have a relationship with them, and that relationship goes far beyond, I don't mean you have to get in there, go visit them every weekend at their house.
No.
You have to know about their family issues, because when they come to work and they're not producing, you should be able to go in and say, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Your numbers aren't up. Get busy." You should be able to say, you have an issue? Do you have a problem? Can I help you with it? And let them speak to you as a person. And that's what it is. Yeah. It's all about communication. And your book is so spot on about that, communicating with one-on-one to every employee out there. Yeah. Great.
Thank you very much for that, Fred. And just to add to what you're saying is that it's all about building trust and confidence. Because when you have someone that's coming to see you for the first time, maybe for their first one-to-one, they're going to be a little bit nervous. They're not going to know what you're going to talk about in this one-to-one. So you have to explain the structure of how the meeting is going to take place. You have to explain, first of all, that it's their meeting. It's going to be a formal meeting. There's going to be some notes that are going to be taken. So there's going to be a summary of the meeting, a written summary. But it's them that are going to write their summary of this meeting to prepare for the next one, not you. They own their own meeting.
Exactly.
Yes. I think that's really good. That's a good tip.
Make sure that you're a number. Yeah.
I think we had a little freezing there for a second.
Little glitch.
Yeah, little glitch.
Yeah, there was a freeze there somehow.
There was. Robertson, I wanted to ask you a question in your role as a management expert. This happens many times in the corporate world. You're in a role and a position opens, which is a promotion, where you would then be overseeing or supervising your peers, the same people that you've been working with. What are your thoughts about that? Is this a good process to have, and if it is, how do you keep that bond? How do you keep maybe those things that you learned in confidence from your peers, who you're now, you're managing them?
You're now they're a boss. You're basically you stepped up. Well, I believe it's a very good thing. First and foremost, I think that the fact of having an internal promotion system within a company is very good. And not always to be looking outside for fresh talent, because most of the time you're going to find the talent's already in the company. So that's the very first thing I'd like to say about that. The second thing I could say about that is that it's all about not just confidence in the people you're working with, but also in self-confidence, having the confidence to put yourself in a position so that when you have your first one-to-one with those people that you've just been put above in a hierarchical way in the organization, that you can put them at ease very easily because you structure the meeting. It's very easy to, you're going to have to talk about, for example, you'll say, in this meeting, we're going to talk about your objectives, obviously. I'm going to try and give you any help with those objectives if I can. If you need resources, for example, extra resources, extra money, extra human resources to achieve your objectives, I'm here to be a facilitator. I'm here to facilitate your job. And that's one of the best approaches to this. When you've just been promoted above, is to say that you are there to help. You are there to facilitate and make their life easier, not more difficult, but easier. And because you share some of the same experiences, you can also explain that you understand where they're coming from, and you can understand what their problems they're facing on a day-to-day basis are.
I think that's a big advantage, that you've been there. You understand the role and what's expected, and now you're going to help them based on your own experience. Fred, what would you like to add to that?
Well, yeah, that's true, because you're communicating with every employee at their level, and you can't help them. There's some people that want to grow in a corporation, and your job is to facilitate that. And you're spot on, because as a Six Sigma expert, that's all they did was facilitate meeting between, like I said, a janitor at one end of the table and an admiral in the Navy on the other. Yeah. And you have to bring those two together and get their views up on the board to where they're sharing their ideas. And that's the communication level that you're talking about. You got to understand the people you're working with. And like I say, every person out there has value to add to any situation that you're in, any problem that you have. I would get a diverse group, and that's one of the things we did was get a diverse group. Like you bring, bottom breakfast, everything, get them all together and create a cohesive team that can add to one solution. And that is, hey, how do we grow this business? How do we, encourage everyone to do the best they can at their job? Like I said, if you don't want to be a boss, you don't have to be a boss to be a leader. A janitor, and I would like to use that explanation, because you can be the best janitor in your field and be an example as a leader to other janitors and other people around you, because they're watching. The bosses are watching and your peers are watching. And when you go on as a leader and bring that out in them and let them supply the answers, you become the best example there is and a great business coach.
Yeah. And it's all about, as you say, Fred, it's all about leading by example. And then when you're in for example, when you're in these one-to-one meetings, which, by the way, should be in a frequency of at least once a month with each member of your team, of your own team, and should last at least an hour. 80% of the time, it's the person that you're with that's going to be talking. You're there to incite them to talk. You're there to listen to what they're saying, and you're there to facilitate any problems they might have. And just go back to one thing you said earlier, which is very interesting, is that sometimes you'll have a structured meeting. So you'll have all your SMART objectives. So you'll have all your objectives were specific, measurable, attainable, relevant and timed. And you'll have all these objectives written down. So of course you're going to discuss their objectives to see if they need any help with that during that meeting. But if at some point in that meeting, they have a personal problem, and you've already set the agenda, and they've set the agenda for themselves, as I said earlier on, and they have a personal problem, they bring this up during the meeting, you can't just wave that aside. You have to say, okay, let's stop the meeting, let's listen to what you've got to say, and let's really hear if I can help you in any way with this. Or perhaps you can't help directly, but maybe point the person towards someone that can help them with a personal problem or issue. And that's all part and parcel of building trust and confidence on an individual basis. I think that's very important to understand.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic.
Excellent point, Robertson. And I'm wondering, for our audience, who are the people listening and watching, when these one-on-one meetings take place, okay, there has to be a level of trust, as you described. How important is it for the person in the management, the leadership position to truly be listening to what the other person has to say instead of just setting up the meeting and just, okay, I'll just whatever they have to say. And at the end, they are not going to listen anyway. And then the other person leaves feeling horrible.
Yeah, well, it's so important because at the end of the day, this shows a lack of care and attention. If you do that, you're risking your own reputation as a manager, because at the end of the day, if you say you really care, there's an acronym for care, which is customers are really everything. But as a manager, your internal customer, your most important customer, is the employee that's working with you. So if you're not giving your full attention, for example, there's a difference between listening attentively to someone and listening with acuteness to someone. Really attentive listening, then you can go to active listening, where not only you're listening, but you're also able to reformulate what the person said to you to check understanding. That's very important. So if someone tells you, yeah, I've just done 90% at the reception in terms of increasing our check-ins, the speed of our check-ins is 90% up on last year. And they talk about this for a while and how they did it. And then if you're not able to say, so if I understood correctly, you've increased this by 90% at the reception during this year in the period from March till April, is that correct? Now that shows that you've been listening correctly to the person, and that you've not just been listening attentively, you've been listening actively to the person.
Great point.
Stupid
Active
points,
listening really makes a big difference. And when we think about the setting the stage for the meeting, do we want to have our phone out where we're checking our phone while you are coming to me and trusting me that I'm actually listening, or my phone on my desk is ringing and I'm picking it up, taking calls? Do we want to have a safe space for people to be able to share?
You've got to make the space safe. You can't, for example, you make sure I talk about this in the book, 1-to-1, you've got to make sure that where the meeting's being held, there's no external noise. For example, there's not someone on a building site outside the window where you're trying to speak to the person, for example. You've got to ensure that your assistant or your secretary has been told there's no interruption under any circumstances, unless the building's on fire, of course, during this meeting, during this 1 hour meeting, because this is privileged space. This is privileged and safe space for your employee. You're certainly not looking at your phone. Your phone's switched off, as their phone should also be switched off. You're not looking at your computer either. You're looking at the person. You're talking to the person. You're not there to be looking at your phone at all. And you have to have 100% your conversation, your concentration on the person. There's also to make sure that you don't have, some offices, they have paper thin walls. So also make sure that when you're having a 1-to-1 with someone, you're not next to a noisy meeting that's going with 30 other individuals and you can hear everything they're saying. That's going to completely ruin. So it has to be 100% concentration from both sides, and you have to create that environment. A comfortable environment at the right temperature, for example. This is important. If you get the room's too hot, people fall asleep. If it's too cold, you can't concentrate. You have to make sure the place where you're doing this is the right temperature, that it's air conditioned properly, that you've not got any noise interference. So where you carry out this meeting is extremely important.
Yeah, I got one question to add to that. What creating that comfortable environment. A lot of people in the food chain are afraid of the boss, right? Mm-hmm. How do you dispel? How would you explain how a good leader could dispel that fear factor when that person comes into the room, the environment's correct, the temperature's good, you're feeling good, they're secure that way. How do you help dispel that person's fear factor of, I'm talking to the boss?
Oh, yeah. So it's all about the why, isn't it? It's always about explaining why they're there. Because some people, they don't understand, why is the boss want to see me once a month now? What's going on? Is this have I done something wrong? It's the very first thing maybe that goes through their head. So that's to dispel that immediately. So the very first thing is the warm handshake. It's to sit down. It's, can I offer you something to drink? You get a bit of informal stuff at the beginning. Yeah, that's very important. So you put the person at their ease. So you ask them to have a seat. You ask them, are you thirsty? Would you like a glass of water? Would you prefer some tea, some coffee? Is there anything else that you need? How is everything at work at the moment? Is everything fine? How are you? How's the family? So a bit of informal talk at the beginning. And then to explain, if this is the very first one-to-one you're having with someone, to explain why you're having this meeting. So basically you're here today to make sure that this is going to be your meeting in the future. So we're going to talk about your objectives through the year. And what it's to do is to give you markers throughout the whole year. So instead of waiting until the final appraisal interview at the end of the year and saying, oh dear, it appears you've missed all your objectives. This is obviously a disastrous situation. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
That would not be a good Christmas present for either for yourself or for the employee. Yeah. So it's to give markers to say that in those periods, this is where the person can ask you for help, to help them with their objectives. Perhaps the objectives, because the external environment have changed in any case. Yeah. So if we think about, I don't know, you think about the COVID, or you think about 2008, the financial crisis. Of course, a lot of objectives were given and then had to be changed completely. But you have to have an opportunity to do that. You're not going to ask someone to do the same numbers that they were asked at the beginning of the year when we've had COVID for the last year and a half, or we've had a financial crisis. Yeah, you're going to have to readjust the objectives, and that's the time to do that. So this is all what you've got to show the person is that you're there to help them succeed. That's what you're there to tell them. And you're also there to give structure to make it easier for them. So I'll give you an example of the structure. The structure I used to use was SCOP. So it's sales, costs, operations, and people. And every time that someone's in a one-to-one with me, we'll take, first of all, their objectives. Then we'll go through the sales, the costs, the operations, and the people, so that they get a chance to talk about each of those areas and that they're comfortable with it, because they understand it's always going to be the same meeting. There's always going to be a formal summary of the meeting, written summary that they're going to do, and they're going to give you that 2 weeks before their next meeting, so that you don't end up repeating what you've already talked about, and that they're comfortable with what they're going to talk about. And because it's their meeting, they can also set things in that agenda to say, I want to talk about this in the next meeting, and they can write this down. And so they know that they're going to be listened to about things that are important for them also.
I love that, and especially that last point that you just made, because how many times does someone in a leadership position find out about something going on in the organization that they had no idea about until they had this sit down with someone who said, hey, did you know what's going on in the service department or in accounting or the call center? And that's like a breath of fresh air. You're getting information that you didn't have.
Yeah, it's you've got to give people this opportunity. Yeah. So first of all, as Fred was saying, you've got to get rid of this fear factor as quickly as possible. The second thing is to make this person comfortable, because when they are comfortable, when they trust you as a person, not just as their manager, but as a person, that's when you're going to get the information that's going to start coming that's important from the shop floor or whichever, as you said, Jacalyn, whichever department you're talking about. And I've had so many examples of this happen. And it's, it's one time I remember when we were struggling to sell coffee in a restaurant, for example, and I couldn't understand why this was going on. And the security guy came to see me one day. He said, oh, by the way, I just want to say this was his one-to-one. Because I asked him, is there anything else you'd like to talk about? You can talk about anything you like. Is there anything else you want to say? Yeah. I've noticed that we're not serving coffee in the restaurant there. And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, we're not serving coffee in the restaurant. Of course we serve coffee in the restaurant. He said, yeah, but what people are doing, they're sitting down with their computers and their phones, and they're ordering one coffee. They get one coffee. But then the serving person will never go back and ask them for the second one. and then you let them sit there for 3 hours with no drinks and no coffee, no reservice, no upselling, nothing going on. So, of course, with that information, I then went to the food and beverage person and said, listen, I didn't say, of course, that the security person had told me. I just said, I've noticed that this and this and this is going on. But the thing is that important to understand is that guy from the security, he didn't need to tell me that. That wasn't part of his role. That wasn't part of his job. But he felt so comfortable in his position of the security with me that he was able to tell me that. And if he hadn't been comfortable and he hadn't had confidence and trust, he would never have told me that.
That's a great example.
Yeah, he would never have told me that, because he would have thought the very first thing I'll do, I'm going to go and tell the guy from the food and beverage department. I'm going to go and tell him, by the way, the guy from security just said, "Oh my goodness, you imagine the disaster." So
Yeah,
of course, people knew that I wouldn't communicate like that. I wouldn't do that. So they were comfortable with that.
In other words, when you've had these meetings that you talk about and the way you structure them, when that person leaves, you have changed their attitude about who they are and their importance. And you know what? All of a sudden, people will go out and they're going to ask, "How'd your meeting go with the boss?" Right?
Oh yeah.
And they're going to spread the rumor around that says, "Hey, he's an okay guy. He listened. I told him what I thought. You know what? He did something about it." That creates not only trust in that one person, but other people generate that feeling about, well, this guy went. When they go to meet you or the leader of that company, they have that. They're a little more relaxed and a little bit more. Maybe they prepared another question they would have been afraid to ask you. So it's this inner working that is in every company. I worked with a welder one time in construction. He'd say, "Well, have you heard a rumor today?" I said, "No." I said, "Well, let's start one." And by the end of the day, that rumor was all over the planet.
I can imagine. It's really funny how it's once one of those rumors starts, it's very difficult to dispel the rumor after. Huh?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Exactly.
It is a tough one.
Robertson, I have a follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
So once the environment of trust has been created between the manager, the leader, the employee, what are your thoughts about asking for, and I'm just putting it like this, asking for permission to actually spend some time with that person while they're on the job, so they can actually learn what people are doing and maybe what process improvements they might be able to find together?
Well, this is I take a slightly different approach to that. I wouldn't do that on an individual basis. For example, I would do when that happens, when I feel the need for that to happen, what I'll do is I'll take a group of people, for example, and I'll create what I call a quality circle, which is a well-known method. And I'll take people from each part of the manufacturing process or from each part of the service process, so the standard operating procedure or the sequence of service or whatever it is. And I'll ask these people, we'll sit down and we'll brainstorm the thing together. So basically, the thing that's most important is to find out what is the question they're really asking. Yeah, is it that we want to make production faster? Is it that we want to make the thing with more quality? What's the real question that's being asked? Because then, once you've defined that question with those people, then when you put that up on the board and you start to brainstorm and you start to use mind maps and all this kind of thing to get to the solution, you will get to the solution because you're using, you know the expression, 2 heads are better than 1, yeah? But then if you've got 6 heads around the table, it's going to be even better, yeah, to get to the solution. So I would tend to take that approach in that kind of circumstance. But to answer your question directly as well, about going on the job with people, for example, I don't ask permission. What I do, for example, I'll give you an example. A very clear example is where people, working in the restaurant, for example, and if I want to know how difficult their job is, or how hard it is, or a better example, how hard it is to go and be a housemaid or make up someone's bed in the room, I'll go and do it. I just go and do it. I'll take a few rooms and I'll do the job, and I'll see how it is, and then I know exactly how difficult it is, and I know what difficulties they face. So it's not so much about being it's about showing you want to do training, but that you're willing to put your hands in that work and do the same job. You're willing to do it. You won't do it as well, but you're willing to do it.
I love that.
That's
fantastic.
Yeah, really super.
Thank you for sharing that. It's hard to believe we're at the end of the show. We didn't take any commercial breaks either. Robertson, we've been sharing your information, but for people who are listening on the radio, how can people get in touch with you, and who would you like to contact you?
Well, anyone that needs to improve their management process, any young managers or any young or managers that want to change the way they're doing things on an individual basis with people, and to get their people to engage more with them. through a quality process. So the book that I've written is called One-to-One. So it's managing quality time with individuals for engagement and success. And I truly believe that the way to get in touch with me is either you can go straight to Amazon and buy the book, obviously. It's on Amazon, it's on Kobo, it's on Apple also. And my full name is Robertson Hunter Stewart. So that's Robertson. So that's my first name, Hunter, like Hunter. So Hunter, Stewart, Stewart. And if you put that all together and you put www in front of it, you've got you've basically got my website. Yeah. So it's www.robertsonhunterstewart.com. And then if you're looking for me on LinkedIn is one of the best places to find me because I talk a lot about management. You get, for example, access to some free videos I've done on management, certain management areas also there. So I would say the best place is definitely LinkedIn to get in touch with me, or go straight through my website or go through Amazon to see the book.
That's
Thank you very much. You are a wealth of information. We need to have you back again because we're just scratching the surface. Well, consider yourself invited.
That's fantastic, Jacalyn. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was fantastic meeting both of you. Yeah? A real pleasure.
You. Nice meeting you too. Happy holidays, and we'll see you again.
Okay, happy holidays to both of you.
Take care, Rob.
Bye.
Have a blessed
bye now.
season coming up.
Fred, great work bringing Robertson here to the show. Thank you. We also have, he's amazing. Like I said, we just scratched the surface here. I'm going to reach out to him, have him on several shows after this. So, Fred, what's the best way?
Several of your other shows.
He's a perfect fit. Absolutely. What's the best way for people to reach you, and who would you like to reach out to you?
Okay. You know what? From age 0 to 105, as with my book, Health with an Attitude. I'm really wanting to reach people with that, because this season, my book, Health with an Attitude, is all about, changing your attitude to improve your health. And at this time of the season, a lot of folks, the stress, the holiday season, it's the perfect gift. It fits in a stocking, so it's a great stocking stuffer. And you can go out on Amazon.com and just write Fred Kinley. It's FredKienle, and say Health with an Attitude, and it'll bring that book up and click on it. So you can get it on that or Kindle if you want to do it that way. But it's an important book, and I'm really looking out to reach a lot of business owners that would really gain the benefit if they touch base with me and allow me to come into their businesses and do my seminar called Leadership with an Attitude, which the new book I'm writing, the finished writing is coming out with. And it will help their organization tremendously. And they can reach me on LinkedIn or my email address, which is fkienle@aol.com. And I'd love to talk to them.
Thank you, Fred. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
You too. Always a pleasure. You always have a delicious smile. You have a brightness in your eyes. Your whole face lights up. And I wish you and your family a fantastic Merry Christmas. I know we're not doing a show next week, but the following week we'll have Lori Black on, and she's a fantastic person that runs one of these assisted living homes and deals with a lot of seniors. And there's a lot of stuff she can bring to the table.
Well,
so that'll be the 29th. All right.
The 29th. So no show for next week, people watching and listening for the wise ones. Our other programs will still be streaming. And Fred, thank you again. I look forward to seeing you after the holidays. Enjoy yourself.
Absolutely. You have a fantastic Christmas and a blessed one, okay? And healthy.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much for all the interaction. I'm watching on all the platforms. We have a lot of people who are watching. If you missed any of our show, just go over to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV, and you'll see there's a section that says playlists. Just click on playlists and you'll see this show will be there as of tonight. Otherwise, you can watch it underneath. Just go to content. All right, we are signing off for now. Our business show is coming up momentarily within 10 minutes, I think. So I'll be back with Mr. Al Cini, my co-host, and our guest is Ryan Harbison. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Robertson. We'll see you again. Happy holidays, everyone.